Good morning.
Good morning and welcome to MediaPulse, the show where we help you make sense of Thai politics.
A lot has been going on in the Thai political scene in the past 1 week, and today we try to help you make sense of all these events that have taken place over the past 1 week.
Yes, obviously there were a lot of back and forth within the political parties as well as the investigations.
That's right. When we say back and forth, we are referring to what seemed to be some kind of a buck passing over the charges of fraud in the Senate election last year between the Election Commission and the Department of Special Investigation, or DSI. So after much back and forth, we have to repeat that, the DSI has finally agreed to launch an investigation into the alleged money laundering in connection with last year's Senate election.
Yes, the decision means that the more serious charges of criminal association and breaches of national security will be pursued by DSI. Charges of election collusion and block voting will meanwhile be handled separately by the Election Commission.
But what is interesting is that most political analysts immediately see the decision by the DSI as a result of a political compromise.
Yeah, they see this case as a political game that pits Thepchai against Paetongtarn party. Remember, these are the two major partners in the ruling coalition.
Yep.
The DSI decision to pursue only the money laundering charge in the Senate election fraud case came only a few days after a much publicized meeting of leading figures of the two parties, including the former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra.
And the Thai media have hinted at a possible deal over the case made at the meeting among these big four. We'll come back to that later on.
Yes.
But let's come back to this case. DSI has claimed to have evidence suggesting a possible large-scale collusion involving intricate scheming and substantial financial transactions in the Senate election, which saw candidates said to be associated with Paetongtarn party, a senior partner in the ruling coalition, win a large number of seats up for grabs during the election.
Yeah, DSI has proposed to launch a full-scale investigation into the allegations. However, any such investigation needs the consent of the Special Case Committee headed by Deputy Prime Minister Phumtham Wechayachai. The meeting of the committee on Thursday agreed to accept for investigation only the charges related to money laundering.
A little bit of background.
Yeah.
The Senate election was held in the form of self-selection among the candidates in June last year, amid allegations of a widespread fraud, and certain political groups were accused of scheming to manipulate the election process by flooding the election at the 3 levels with contestants paid to vote for their preferred candidates.
Yeah.
And sources in the SI estimated that as much as 300 million baht was paid to these pseudo contestants at the 3 stages of the election.
That's a lot of money.
Definitely.
Yeah, the next step for DSI is to form a panel of investigators to question witnesses and probe the money trail. Dozens of former candidates in the Senate's election and those who are on the alternate list turn up at the DSI headquarters to show their support for an investigation into the alleged offences as well.
All right, the decision by the Special Case Committee of DSI to proceed with the money laundering charges in the case was overshadowed by a meeting of what the Thai media described as the 4 most powerful figures in Thai politics.
Under questioning by reporters on Wednesday, Deputy Prime Minister Anutin Charnvirakul actually admitted that he called on former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra at the latter's residence on Sunday.
No, Anutin's meeting with Thaksin may not be much of a surprise, because we know that Kun Anutin has been in constant communication with the former Prime Minister, either through phone conversation or line messaging application. And that's what Kun Anutin confirmed with reporters during the interview. But what raises eyebrows was the presence in the meeting of Nevin Chichop, a veteran politician and the de facto leader of Phum Chai Thai Party, whose relationship with Thaksin has been far from cordial.
Anutin admitted that he brought Nevin along to the meeting at Thaksin's residence. Also present was Prime Minister Paetongtarn. So it is widely known that there has been bad blood between Thaksin and Nevin. The two former political allies parted ways after a bitter political conflict in 2008.
Anutin, during the short interview with reporters, was very careful in not dwelling into details of the meeting, only saying that they talk about a wide range of issues. And political analysts took note that the meeting happened only a few days before the SI was to decide whether or not it would take up the Senate election fraud case for investigation.
This case is widely seen by political analysts as part of Pheu Thai Party's attempt to turn the screws on Anutin and his Phum Chai Thai Party. Yeah, because Anutin has consistently denied charges that a large number of senators elected in the much criticized Senate election are associated with his Phum Chai Thai Party.
And of course, he also denied any connection between his meeting with Thaksin and the Senate election fraud case. As we have been reporting, there has been a widening rift between the two parties over a series of political issues. We at the MediaPulse have been referring to them as frenemies. Remember that?
Yes.
Right? Because they seem to have been having this kind of a love-hate relationship. The two parties have clashed over a number of issues, but what really alarmed Pheu Thai was Phum Chai Thai's alleged role in the Senate election.
Yeah, the fact that Deputy Prime Minister Phum Tham is chairman of the Special Case Committee of DSI has fueled speculation that Pheu Thai Party is using the Senate election fraud case as a political weapon against Phum Chai Thai. Now, Phum Tham is a key figure of Pheu Thai Party and of course one of Thaksin's most trusted aides. Speaking after the meeting of the special committee, Phum Tham denied that the decision to pursue money laundering charge was politically motivated.
Another development in recent days is also seen as a sign of further estrangement between the two parties, or another step by Pheu Thai to rein in Phum Chai Thai Party as seen by some of the Thai media. What happened is that the Pheu Thai has struck back at what the Thai media believe to be something very close to Nevin's heart. That is the MotoGP motorcycle racing, the world's top motorcycle racing series. And Buriram has been hosting the event for the past 6 years, thanks to the generous financial support from the government. And Buriram, a province in northeastern Thailand, is Nevin's hometown and is known as the political stronghold of Phum Chai Thai Party. The MotoGP racing has helped put the once little-known province on the world map, raking in billions of baht in revenue every year for the past 6 years.
Yes, but all of a sudden, the Paetongtarn government has sent out a signal that it is reviewing its financial support for the event. It prompted Nevin, who has been the biggest sport promoter in the province in recent years, to say on social media that if the government ends its subsidies, the racing event next year would be the last for Thailand. Now, the MotoGP event costs the government around 500 million baht a year, with another 300 million baht in sponsorships from the private sector.
The Prime Minister Paetongtarn has said that her government will review its financial support for the event to assess whether the investment is worthwhile or not. So, what is the significance of Anutin's meeting with Thaksin?
Well, political analysts were quick to characterize it as Anutin kissing Thaksin's ring.
So, do we need to remind you who the real boss in Thai politics these days is?
Yeah, even the sports events are influenced. But anyway, now we're going to talk about another hot issue in Thai politics. Everybody's got their eyes on this. It's the no confidence debate.
But the question is it going to be just 1 day or 5 days? That has been the topic of intense debate between the opposition bloc and the coalition parties over the past 1 week. we are talking about the debate over the likely duration of the upcoming no confidence debate against Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra, which is set for March 24th. You may want to call it the pre-debate debate, which is something not unusual.
It is very common that when it comes to a no confidence debate, its duration is always a point of contention. The opposition parties naturally would want as much time as possible to grill their censure targets, and it's no different this time. The People's Party and its allies in the opposition bloc have asked for as many as 5 days to censure the Prime Minister, but Thepchai Party, the core of the Paetongtarn coalition government, said no. We will give you just 1 day only.
So the debate between the two parties has erupted even before the real no confidence debate begins, right?
Yeah.
Thepchai Party argues that since Paetongtarn is the only target in the censure debate, why would the opposition want as many as 5 days for the debate, right? In the past, it was common for a no confidence debate to drag on for a few days, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days. But Thepchai Party insisted that it was because back then the debate targeted not only the Prime Minister, but also a number of cabinet members. So it makes sense that the opposition was given ample time for its political exercise.
Yeah, the opposition initially planned to include a number of cabinet members as its censure targets as well, but it later changed its mind and settled only for the Prime Minister. The People's Party, the main opposition party, insists that Prime Minister Paetongtarn has to be held accountable for the performance of her entire cabinet. That's why it needs as many as 5 days to cover all of what it considers to be the failures and shortcomings of the government under her leadership.
So the past 1 week, we saw a back and forth between the two parties over the duration of the no confidence debate. And finally, they agreed to sit down next week to try to come to an agreement. And political observers believe that the two sides are only posturing with their demands. They are most likely to settle for a compromise at the end of the day. So, but what are the charges that the opposition plans to raise against Kun Paetongtarn?
So according to Nattapong Ruanpanyawut, leader of the People's Party, the biggest problem with Paetongtarn is her lack of leadership. He said she does not have the caliber or the necessary knowledge to lead the country. The appointments she made to the cabinet were under the influence of people who were supposed to be her subordinates. He said the attack on Paetongtarn will also focus on how she allows her father, Thaksin Shinawatra, to dominate her running of the country.
The worst still, the Prime Minister has failed to solve the country's economic problems, judging from the fact that Thailand's economic growth lags far behind most of the ASEAN countries. But Kun Clare, listening to the charges that the opposition is raising against Kun Paetongtarn, reminds me of what former British Prime Minister Tony Blair says about leadership in his book on leadership. This is what he says. Governing is the one profession of importance in which a person with no qualifications, no track record, a CV devoid of content can rise to a position of extraordinary power. What I'm trying to say is that in the eyes of the opposition, Paetongtarn's leadership or her lack of leadership certainly fits the characterization of it by the former British leader.
It means the problem is not just for Thailand, but all around the world.
That's right.
It seems.
That's right.
The media has been full of speculation as well as to how Paetongtarn, a political greenhorn, will handle her first real political test. The young Prime Minister's limited governance experience, political maturity, and evident lack of grasp on policy issues are seen as weaknesses that the opposition is likely to exploit.
And she will be closely watched on how she handles the challenge of refuting charges that her decision-making has more often than not been influenced by her father. And Thepchai Party has warned that any mention of Thaksin will face strong protest from its MPs. I mean, House rules typically prohibit debates that referenced individuals outside the chamber. But this time around, we believe that the opposition, especially the People's Party, intend to focus not only on the Prime Minister, but on her father as well.
Yeah, actually, Thai PBS World spoke with several key MPs of the People Party who argue that referencing Thaksin in the debate is justified due to his influence over the Prime Minister.
There may be question as to why the opposition has chosen to target only the Prime Minister in its no confidence motion. This is seen by political analysts as a political tactic to exploit what is believed to be existing disunity among parties in the coalition government. And as we have reported, the opposition initially intended to include a number of cabinet members, both from Thepchai and other coalition parties, to be censured. But it changed its mind at the last minute to focus only on Paetongtarn, who is also leader of Thepchai party, which is the core party in the coalition government.
So the rationale is that if the cabinet members from other parties are included in the censure list, that would be a tendency for them to unite to make sure that everyone from the coalition survived the no confidence vote. It will come down to something like, you vote for me, I vote for you, as happened in the past.
You scratch my back, I scratch yours, something like that, right? But this time around, the opposition party want to close that possibility by focusing only on the Prime Minister.
Yeah, so if Paetongtarn is the only target, there would not be this kind of political expediency, and the opposition bloc seems to be working on an assumption that not every party in the Paetongtarn coalition is happy with the performance of the Prime Minister.
No, an MP of the People's Party, which is the main opposition party, has even suggested that only one single dissenting vote on the part of the coalition parties would be enough to signal troubles in the government.
The crack.
So, that's right.
And all eyes are on Phumjai Thai Party, the second biggest partner in the coalition, right? As we have been reporting, Phumjai Thai Party has clashed with Thepchai on a number of issues. The rocky relationship between the two parties have been making a lot of headlines. And the upcoming no confidence debate is seen as a good test whether they are still as united as they claim. As Anutin Chanvirakul, the leader of Phumjai Thai Party, has repeatedly reaffirmed his party's commitment to stay with the Thepchai in the coalition. He also emphasized that his party will provide full support for Paetongtarn in her no confidence vote.
And this is what he had to say to reporters last week about his party's full support for the Prime Minister. He said, I have instructed every single MP and cabinet member of Phumjai Thai Party to be present at the no confidence debate to show support for the Prime Minister.
Well, we will have to wait and see how things turn out in the no confidence debate. That's 24th of March.
But be prepared for a surprise. General Pravit Wongsuwan, the leader of Palang Pracharat Party, will take to the floor to join in the censure against Paetongtarn.
Yeah, Phaiboon Nititawan, the Secretary General of the party, confirmed that the former military strongman intended to be present at the debate, but declined to reveal what specific issues he would raise against the Prime Minister.
We said that surprise because, as we have been reporting in this program, General Pravit is notorious for frequently skipping House meetings, right?
Yeah.
It's become quite legendary in that sense, right?
Serial absentee.
To say the least, he probably has one of the worst attendance records. And political analysts noted that there is bad blood between the former General Pravit and Thaksin, the Prime Minister's father. So if Pravit had any motivation to participate in the censure debate, it would likely be to settle the score with Thaksin through censuring his daughter, the Prime Minister.
Yeah, Thaksin has every reason to believe that he was betrayed by Pravit, who he said was made Army Commander-in-Chief in 2004 only with his blessing. Thaksin said in a Twitter post in 2018 He doesn't sound as gentle as he did when he begged at my table to be made army chief.
Now, Thaksin's tweet was in response to Pravid's suggestion that Thaksin was responsible for continuing political unrest in the country at that time, right? Of course, we still remember that Kun Pravid, General Pravid, was known as the big brother of the generals who engineered the military coup d'etats against Thaksin in 2006 and his sister Yingluck in 2014. So when we say there's bad blood between them, this is quite obvious. They have a history of animosities between them. So if Kun Pravid wants to take to the floor to debate against Paetongtarn, his only motivation is to get back at Thaksin.
At least he gets to sign the attendance.
That's right. It could be the first time in months that he attends house meetings. Right?
Yeah. Well, speaking of no confidence debate, the Uyghurs repatriation is one of the most debated issues in Thai politics this week and could potentially be included in the censure debate as well. Remember, these people were held at the Immigration Bureau in Bangkok for 11 years before they were sent back to China last weekend. The news headlines regarding this issue, not just in Thai media, but the international media also covered it widely. So, is it an international issue? Yes. Has it been viewed as a political issue as well? Also, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It all started at dawn on February 27th. Kun Kannawi Subsang, an MP of Fair Party, shared these pictures on social media.
Yeah, trucks.
These are, trucks from the Thai Immigration Bureau with our windows taped, headed for the airport. The government, it took the government several hours to admit that the trucks were carrying the Uyghur detainees to be repatriated.
We even have footages of them disembarking the plane in Kashgar in China's Xinjiang region.
Before the government came out to admit that these people had been repatriated from Thailand.
Exactly. Well, this has put Thailand on the radar for not so good reason. Condemnation flows in from around the world, especially the West. The list includes the US government, the UK, Australia, UNHCR, Human Rights Watch, and ASEAN parliamentarians for human rights. So the question is, they were held here for 11 years, why now?
Remember, Prime Minister Paetongtarn went on an official visit to China early last month, right? In the press conference afterwards, she admitted that the two governments have been in talks over this issue for a while, and it was raised again during her visit and her talk with the Chinese leaders.
The PM confirms that the Chinese government gave her assurance that the Uyghurs will be allowed to return to their families, and Thai authorities will be allowed to check on their well-being. But there are some questions, actually. So we've only seen one or two on TV. What about the rest of the group? And although the Chinese guarantee that Thai officials can visit and check on the Uyghurs at any time, the question is who's going to keep them in check? Who's going to fly there and visit them often enough?
Thai experts on international affairs are quite skeptical of what will happen as a consequence of the repatriation of this group of people. According to some of these analysts, sending the Uyghur back is seen as an action that could really go down not very well with countries in the West. And in an interview, Dr. Paetongtarn Watanayagon, a well-known national security analyst, said that although this may help strengthen Thailand's ties with China, it may leave the country vulnerable to some forms of retaliation. For example, trade sanctions from some of the Western countries.
Well, to be fair, the government did try very hard to explain what happened and the reasons behind that decision. But the Prime Minister's words still didn't go down too well with a lot of observers. So there's a press conference where Prime Minister Paetongtarn said that there were no forced repatriations. She said these people were not dragged. She also mentioned that they were willing to go back, and a third country offered resettlement program for the detainees.
No, but it doesn't end there, because Kun Kannawi Subsang claimed that he has obtained letters written by some of the Uyghurs detainees who beg not to be sent back to China. Of course, there's been question about the authenticity of the letters that Kun Kanawi claimed to have obtained from some of the former detainees.
Yeah, one argument was that the detainees were held at the Immigration Bureau, not the Department of Corrections prison. So why does the stamp or watermark on the paper came from the Department of Corrections? That was one question. And Kun Kanawi actually said that what is more important than the authenticity of the letters is whether or not the Uyghurs detainee were sent back against their will. He also said that what he is doing is to help the country lower the consequences from sending them back. Now, many people are asking to see the videos of the day that they were actually sent back, like how they were treated. Remember Kun Rangsiman Rome, a People's Party MP who also chairs the House Committee on State Security, Border Activities, National Strategy and Reform, is one of those people who is asking for the videos. So this is a developing issue, and there will be more talks about this issue in the coming weeks. Generally, there are two sides to this debate, but what does it all mean? Exactly. I think simple answer is that it could potentially leave Paetongtarn governments in a weaker position, especially when the central debate is coming up.
Definitely, this is going to be, we believe that this will be one of the major issues to be raised by the opposition against her.
And let's hope that the travel warnings from the West are just a precaution.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Okay.
That's it for this week. We hope you've enjoyed the show and found it useful. We'll see you again next week. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye.